Good Monday morning, everybody. I'm Zev Fima, research analyst for Action Alerts Plus. I'll be filling in for Catherine Ross this week. Also, Jim is out today, but I'm here with Jeff Marks, senior portfolio analyst for the Trust. Jeff, busy week. We're going to talk oil, we're going to talk earnings, but the first thing I want to ask you is the real money stock of the day today is Halliburton. So they released earnings earlier today. What's your quick takeaway?
Yep, so they had a slight beat on earnings today, and I think the most important takeaway here is that after quarter of downward earnings revision, really in the whole oil services group, Halliburton, Schlumberger, we're finally starting to see some type of some stabilization where the investment cycle may finally move into their favor. So Halliburton, very strong international growth, which is where a lot of the services players are going to work on, Schlumberger as well. North America, not as tight, but we know the North American producers have been very cash flow, very disciplined right now from the investment. But most important, it does sound like the worst may be behind them. The stock opened up big, but it kind of came back a little bit at the time of this. But again, I think that the worst may be behind them. The cycle's finally moving into their favor, which means the next direction for earnings revisions might be in a positive direction and not the continued downward cycle like they've experienced.
Right, and speaking of Halliburton, Schlumberger is also a peer that we hold for Action Alerts Plus, and we covered the entire earnings report over on Action Alerts on Thursday, so be sure to check that out. Also, a quick reminder, Halliburton is our stock of the day, so Stephen Sarge Guilfoyle is going to be covering that.
Love Sarge. Terrific.
He provides an incredible take on all of this.
Yeah.
Real money, get over to check that out.
I love that. I always read the Daily Recon to start my morning.
Yeah,
He's
great way to start.
Sarge.
Sarge and Jim are pretty much my morning routine. All right, so moving right along, Jeff, let's talk oil. So the Trump administration has said that they're not going to extend the waivers on Iran. So basically everyone's got to get in line with these sanctions. Jeff, any takeaway?
Yep, so you're seeing oil spike up today in reaction to this news because obviously there's a lot of oil that's going to be coming off the market. Now the question is, of course, can OPEC kind of turn on the spigot, so to speak, and make up for that oil? We've already seen President Trump tweet out this morning, kind of calling for OPEC to do that. And I think that's something that investors should kind of look out for, right? Because if you are trying to play the oil, make an oil play, what we've seen from time to time whenever oil has kind of gradually, made a move higher, is the president calls for oil to take another step down. Why? The price of oil is a natural headwind to economic activity.
Right.
It's an input cost for many economically sensitive companies, and also higher prices at the pump. That's going to take dollar wallet share out from the consumer, and consumer economy is huge. So I think that's kind of two themes to look out for. Because higher oil, although it was a tailwind at the start of the year, but now it's kind of shifting more into that headwind space.
Right, and those are two sectors that kind of offset each other, consumer discretionary and the energy sector, for exactly that reason. Higher prices at the pump means less wallet share available for consumer discretionary. The one other thing I would note, and we write about this every single week on the weekly roundup, so if you want ongoing coverage of OPEC, anything impacting the oil market, be sure to get over to Action Alerts Plus. The one other thing I would say is OPEC is expected to meet in July, and Russia has come out and said that if America is going to keep pumping at these record levels, right now we're doing 12.1 to 12.2 million barrels per day out of the Permian. Russia has said that they are going to potentially come in and cut back on, reduce the cutbacks rather.
So OPEC's actions, they've done exactly what they've wanted to do. What their goal was is they've stabilized the market. But now we're kind of seeing, up until even this Iran, this new sanction, is that the market is beginning to tighten, and that's why prices have been higher. So we're getting this 2% spike today. We'll kind of see more plays out. There's also trade war implications with China,
right, absolutely,
because China also deals a lot with Iran. So we'll kind of have to see how they respond, if that causes any slip-ups in the current negotiations. But I think the price of oil is really something to keep an eye on in this market.
Right, and with Halliburton being the stock of the day, I know for a fact Sarge is going to be talking about this over on Real Money. We'll be covering Action Alerts Plus. Jeff, real quick, because we are running out of time. 3 earnings reports that we're watching this week.
Yep, so busy week of earnings. So the first one I have my eye on is Wednesday after the bell, Lam Research. It's an Action Alerts Plus name. We actually initiated a position in this company a couple months ago. What I'm interested in here is their commentary around the cycle. There's been a classic bull debate right now. It's the semiconductor investment cycle. It's the classic bull bear debate right now is whether the turn will kind of happen in the end, back half, the end of 2019, or if it's more 2020 based. Any visibility into those cycle dynamics is what investors are going to be looking for when it comes in terms of semis.
And if I can, just real quick to clarify, Lam Research is a capital equipment name, so the equipment sold by Lam Research is used by semiconductor manufacturers in the production of semiconductors.
Micron's a huge client of theirs.
Micron, Samsung, SK Hynix. And when Jeff is talking about, are we going to get this bottoming, what we're really talking about is a bottoming in the DRAM cycle, because once that starts to taper off, CapEx has already started coming down, and once the CapEx comes back into play, that's all to the benefit of Lam Research.
And if you look at what semis are inputs in, I mean, it's in the data center, it's autonomous vehicles.
Right.
So there's a lot of strong expectations where demand will be, very strong for the next couple of years. I think Lam is, they're putting out like a $15 earnings power target over the next couple of years.
Right.
But we'll need that visibility on where the inflection is going to take place.
Absolutely, and then longer term, the other thing to keep in mind is also Internet of Things, edge computing. All of this has really also started another debate, which is our semis, which have traditionally always been boom bust and very cyclical. Is that becoming a little bit more secular? People thought that would happen with with Micron the last time around. Yep. Wasn't exactly the case, but we are looking for that. Yep. So Jeff, any other earnings?
Yeah, so we also have Amazon this week, right?
Right.
Huge player here, and I think there's multiple read-throughs here. One, e-commerce, it'll give you kind of sort of the strength and taste of the consumer, what they're doing, and it's both on the domestic and international side, because if you recall last quarter, investors took issue with Amazon's guidance because of some regulatory restrictions in India taking place on their e-commerce business. So we'll see if that was management being kind of conservative there, if there is something really we need to dig deeper on.
Walmart's another one to watch on there.
Yeah, right, same player, Flipkart as well. So you'll see read-throughs from Amazon's quarter into Walmart too, when they report as well. And then also AWS, I mean, is the cloud. It's a cloud business of Amazon, and all points are leading to another strong quarter of growth for that business. Amazon's a huge player, huge Action Alerts Plus name. So it's a big exciting event there.
Right, and we're going to dig into all this again on Action Alerts Plus on the paid version. And we're talking about margins, the fact that it's investment year, all the things like that. And Jeff, I know you're watching one more. I mean, we're watching a lot of earnings this week, but there is one more key earning.
Yeah, so Boeing reports this week, right? And we've seen price moves in Boeing kind of really judge the day of the Dow Jones Industrial
largest
average.
weighting, I believe.
Yeah, largest weighting. So it can kind of swing it. I mean, the Dow isn't a great read anymore. You got to look more like the S&P 500, but people still take interest in where and how many points the Dow's moving. So the key to watch there is what they say about the 737. A lot of people are expecting a downward revision to cash flow guidance for this year, so that's going to affect Boeing and what investors, how they price it, because people look at the free cash flow yield on that one to how to gauge it.
As well as commentary on production numbers.
Exactly. But I think a less controversial way to play the aerospace business, which is still a very strong business right now outside of what's going on with the 737, is Honeywell, who reported an absolutely fantastic quarter last Thursday. Action Alerts Plus name. They delivered 8% organic growth, which might be the best for an industrial this earnings season. I'm gonna say that. Yeah, up for an acceleration from 6% the previous quarter. So less controversial way. Great aerospace business, warehouse automation, tons of other areas. So if you're looking for more coverage on Honeywell and why a lot of analysts today raised the price target up to like 180s, I wouldn't even say 190 today, you would want to get over to Action Alerts Plus, because we covered that in detail last week.
All right, thank you, Jeff, so much.
You.
Guys, again, we are digging into all of this over on ActionAlertsPlus.com. Real money stock of the day is Halliburton. Sarge is going to be talking all about that, as well as for sure he'll be talking about implications from the oil market, sanctions, everything like that. So be sure to check that out. And I'm Zev Fima from Action Alerts Plus, reporting for TheStreet.com. Excuse me.